Hello, everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness. And before we get started today, update day 23 of my juice cleanse. Here's to your health. I'm drinking lawn. Anyway, you know what? It is so good for me. And I was asked earlier today if, I had more mental clarity. And I said, yes, I do. My memory, however, is not what it normally is. So it's kind of interesting how these things work. But anyway, today's show is not about me. Today we are talking about kindness. And I'm very blessed to have a wonderful guest. Her name is Karen Leslie. And she's what I would call an expert in all things kind. So let's bring her on. Welcome, Miss Karen Leslie. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
So we met in the most not actually the most random way possible. It's through networking, but I'm so glad that we did. And I have an affinity for you since you live in Canada, and I used to live in Canada myself. So every time I meet a Canadian, I think, oh, I miss living there. But anyway, I would love for you to share a bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
It's been a long one, like truly, truly a long one. And this may sound like super strange to some of your listeners, some maybe not. But I knew actually in utero that I'd made a mistake.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I actually heard my mom say, this had better be a boy and it had better be healthy. And even though I didn't understand, I got the energy of it. And I've been an energy practitioner for over 25 years. So I understand more of what I was aware of then now. But I arrived, I wasn't healthy. I almost died at 3 months of age. Obviously, not a boy. And so that kind of started a real journey of feeling like I didn't belong. Because it was very evident to me that when this girl arrived, it was like, oh, because there was so much pressure for my mother to have a son. And so it just started off many, many years of depression and anxiety, suicidal thoughts. Like I remember being suicidal at 16.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple of months, I'm going to be 65. So that's why I say it's been a long journey. And by the age of 60, I finally passed over all of that. And I actually threw myself a birthday party. And I was excited because it was the first birthday that wasn't a failure, because every other one, it was like, you're still here and this isn't okay.
Wow.
So one of my sons is a professional musician. We hired his band. We rented out a place in town. We threw a big party and it was very cool. Getting to where I am now, though, took a lot of courage, probably is the best word. And I studied a lot of different modalities. I got into energy work because I had 3 young boys, and I thought I needed like a first aid kit that was there immediately because bumps, bruises, boys, right? And then I started looking at it to say, okay, I hear it can help with mental health. I can hear it can help in all these other ways. So let's find out. And so I studied many modalities, became, masters or instructors level in a bunch of them. And they all helped to a point, but nothing held. And that was helpful, sure, but it was when I actually started to understand the brain more, hormones, chemical responses, and thought programming, that's when the real healing happened. And that's when I got to the point where I could honestly, truly, absolutely say, I am no longer suicidal. I don't suffer today. I do not suffer with depression. Do I still get a little anxiety? A little, but nothing like before, nothing debilitating. I think it's more excitement mixed in with the unknown that gets me, because I kept my world so small, Julianne. Like, I mean, just so tiny because I was afraid of the world, that's a little bit of the trepidation that's still here, because there's so much I haven't done. I mean, there's this whole world out there now. So yeah, I think that's kind of how I got to where I am. I guess the one surprising thing is after I got over those other difficulties, which, I mean, for sure they were problems and they were debilitating at times,
Mhm.
then like the depression kept coming back. And I was like, I don't understand why I keep getting depressed. Like I don't think I'm depressed, but I feel it. And it
Yeah.
was because I was coasting.
Ah.
Resisting. I had thought, okay, the work's done. I'm here. And then actually, that's when the bravery really needed to come forward to step into actually choosing to design my life, to create something and to expand it.
That's amazing. I have so many questions and thoughts running through my mind. I guess the first one, I don't know why I feel compelled to ask, but did your mom ever say that to you after you were born? Like, did she make it vocal that she preferred having a son?
They eventually got one. They were very, very happy. I was very aware of that.
Mhm.
And he was king.
Ah, gotcha. And
So,
were
but
you
yes,
able
they talked about the pressure to have a son in front of me for sure. And then
Gotcha.
when my brother became of, age, like to get married or to possibly have children or anything, it was constant battering on this poor man.
Hmm. Man, that sounds interesting. It's, that sort of programming, the need to have a son that doesn't typically come from within. It seems like it's planted there, you know. Gosh, that must have been really hard for everyone involved, and not just you, but also them. And but I mean, we're talking to you, so especially you. As somebody as sensitive as you are, because obviously you're sensitive, you must have really felt that and not understood that it really didn't have anything to do with you in the first place.
I didn't understand it for decades, like
Yeah,
truly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get it at all. I just always felt like a mistake's probably not the correct word, but I didn't measure up.
gotcha. Yeah, man, were you able to heal your relationship with your parents?
To a point, yes,
They're still them, though.
they are. My mom passed away almost 20 years ago,
Oh wow. Okay.
and but my dad's still here, and we've gone through some pretty rough patches lately. So we're in the process of rebuilding again. So that's okay, and he's going to be 92 soon. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Well, I don't want to dwell too much on that. I just, was fascinated and was curious to know because I was really sensitive and there were so many things that, now that I'm older, I understand. But even when I was little, I don't, it was like I could hear my stepdad and my mom's thoughts. It was the weird. That's the only way I can describe it. Is that it felt like I would answer their thoughts, and they would be so weirded out by me.
Right.
And freaked out. So that made me feel even more self-conscious because I didn't know that not everybody was able to do that.
Right? And we don't. And well, energy is the first language of a child,
Yeah.
right? Before you're verbal, that's all
Yeah.
you've got to go on to try and figure out how to get what you need.
Exactly. And, trying to feel safe and loved and all of those things. And
Yeah.
yeah, I completely understand how, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that you were aware of that in utero. It makes perfect sense to me. So I just wanted to support you in that.
Thanks.
Of course. But, you have, like you said, you've studied all these different modalities and, um, what are you doing now with all of these tools that you've, I don't want to say accumulated, but
You
that
wouldn't
you've
be wrong.
learned?
So what am I doing with them all? It's like a
Yeah,
big jumbled bag
I like it.
that I go into on an as need basis for whoever I'm working with. So it's actually really hard for me to describe what I do I mean, I help women primarily. I have a few male clients, but I really, my
Mhm.
focus is women. And it's that I don't want anyone to feel how I did. It's
Mhm.
just, there's a saying, walking in someone's shoes and that, but I just don't want somebody to wear the shoes I wore for so long. I want women to feel value. I want them to understand programming. I want them to understand that that's all there, and it's not intentional,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
All these things for the most part are given to us to help us, to guide
Mhm.
us and that. But so as a result, every time I work with somebody, it's very organic. I follow my intuition, and we end up just doing kind of whatever, like really no two sessions are alike. So
Mhm.
I draw on, yeah, decades of different ways of working with things depending on the energy of the person I'm with. Mostly, I would say I work with frequencies. I do a lot of work with frequencies and vortexes, um, sacred geometry, symbols, things like
Mhm.
that. That's a big part of how I do things now. Um, I also can work with angels if that comes up. I have some modalities where there's specific angels I draw on, so it's fun, to be honest, because I
Yeah.
never get bored, that's for sure.
I love that. All I can think of is, there's two things. One, when you're describing some sort of coaching, people don't know. It's like trying to describe air.
Yeah.
How do you describe air? You can't see it? It doesn't typically have a smell. How do you do that? But then the other side of it is when it's the client, they don't know what they want until they don't get it. So it's one of those things that's kind of it's very, I don't care who you are, it's hard to describe coaching. So I
It
get
is,
that.
and I mean, my first question always is, "So if I could change one thing for you today, what would that be?"
Oh, I love that.
And then I just listen, and I
Hmm.
listen until I get a sense of an energy or until I hear something, and then I'll ask a question. I found that almost never when the person answers what they'd like me to change is actually what it is.
That's what my next question was going to be, was that is it even, they think it's kind of like, I always liken it to when people want to lose weight, for example. They want that because they think losing weight is going to give them some sort of feeling without realizing it doesn't work that way. So it's like something outside of ourselves. If I can adjust or arrange this in a certain way, then I'll feel this way. But obviously that doesn't work.
No, I mean, and uh, vast majority of the people, I find that trauma is underneath it.
Hmm.
And it's not in, oh, I've forgotten the letters, whatever the great big medical Bible is, DEM, whatever,
Oh yeah, yeah.
whatever. It's not officially in there from what I understand, but there's what's called now complex PTSD.
Yes, I've
And
actually heard about that. Anyway.
yeah, so as a result now, I mean, people just, they don't understand that something that they hear over and over again, like, oh, I should have been a boy. She should have been a
Mhm,
boy. How, what that does. And then later on you hear, well, like for my example, personally, you're not really good with money. When I was put on an allowance when I was 16 and had to do things, you don't use your money well. You use your money really poorly. And you keep hearing that. And then you keep hearing, that girls don't do things very well,
mhm,
and then I gained some weight and I commented on a picture. Well, the comment back was, well, pictures don't lie. And so that's reinforced. And like, so when
mhm,
you constantly have all these things from different areas and they're subtle and they don't fit the traditional picture of post-traumatic stress disorder, but they create it. And then we don't understand why we have the reactions and the triggers and that we have, because it was, well, that's just who they are. That's how they talk. Well, that
mhm.
talk is actually causing you trauma.
Yeah, I remember mine. My in from my dad was, I'm not good at math. And I'm thinking, I'm in calculus in high school. I don't even have to take it. How am I not good at math? But But compared to him, I absolutely wasn't.
Yeah.
But does it matter? No.
No, but
But
it
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 stuck in
could
my
have in
head.
that moment, depending
Yeah,
on
it definitely stuck in my head. Oh, I mean, that's definitely not as serious because, even then I understood. But there's just things, yeah, it's interesting how, especially when it comes to parents, I don't care. I could have had the most wonderful, beautiful, childhood with the best parents ever, and there would still be issues because they're human and they
Yep,
don't realize, what they're saying. Like, I'm going to take that as absolute truth. So,
right.
yeah, I get
You
that.
do the best you can with what you know.
Exactly.
And then I would say to
Exactly.
my kids at times when they would get really ticked with me, I'd say, because this is my belief pattern is, "You chose me." So, we'll figure
And
it
they're
out,
like,
but yeah.
oh, that's funny. I love that.
Mm,
Yeah, there's times I'm like, why did I choose my parents? I mean, I love my parents, and fortunately, my dad's still here. My mom passed away when I was 14.
oh,
But that was, that's bringing up a lot of stuff for me too, because I'm getting married in about 2 months. And my question is like, would she have actually been happy for me? And the answer is, I don't know. It's a 50-50. Like,
wow.
it's literally a 50-50. She might be, she might not be. So it's kind of fascinating how, um, like walking through that. And now that I'm older, I think, yeah, she really did do the best she could. And I could have had more.
We all could have more.
Yeah, I needed more, but you know what? I found it in other people. I found what I needed in, bonus moms. So,
Yeah, like, my godparents were an integral part of my growing up,
yeah, I
and
love
so we
that.
do, it's all part of the family, the blood family, and then the family that we seek out
Hmm.
that bring things together for us, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
On that note, it is time for us to go to a commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. For those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for being here. And everybody on demand, of course, we are happy you're here as well. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about kindness. What does that mean, even? And is there a difference between being kind to yourself and kind to others? Anyway, we're going to unpack that a little bit after the commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, our guest today is Karen Leslie. Let's bring her back. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So during the commercial break, I was thinking about, this idea of kindness. And you have a podcast, or not even a podcast, sorry, it's a TV show, and it's like everywhere. So why
Yeah.
don't we talk about that for a moment? I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh, thank you. It's called Cultivating Kindness with Karen. So, and yes, virtually everything I do embodies somehow an element of kindness in it.
Love that.
And the title may sound cute and friendly, but it's really not. I challenge people's way of thinking and how they look at kindness and how they look at all different topics towards themselves.
Hmm.
So even the very first episode is kind of what you were just talking about before the commercial break. It's like, what does kindness mean to you?
Yeah.
Because it's so often, from my perspective, inaccurate.
I love that. I'd love for you to explain what you mean.
Sure, there's a lot of different ways. But first of all, most people feel that kindness is doing for others. And
Mhm.
yes, acts of kindness towards others are amazing. One of my cautions, though, with that is, do you really know what is kind for the other person?
Mm.
Right? Or have you just made an assumption? I like
Mhm.
this, so I'm sure he or she will. You know, or
Mhm.
do you do something for someone else with an agenda attached to it? Then you really are disrupting the energy of kindness when you do that. You know, if you do something for someone and they don't reciprocate the way you would like them to, you've had an agenda. Like if it bothers you that they didn't say thank you or they didn't return the favor somehow back to you, anything at
Mhm.
all, if you're anything other than, I'm just so happy and grateful I was able to do this for this person. If you're any other energy, then you've got an agenda. And
Yeah.
that to me is not actually the true energy of kindness.
I love that. There are so many things where, yeah, the agenda, the agenda gets in the way quite a bit, I would say.
It does. I mean, but we're taught to have one. We're taught,
We are.
do this to get this.
Yeah.
Right? That's part of the programming when we're younger and even up to maybe yesterday, depending on what career you have or what you're doing, where you are in your life. Like sometimes that's really necessary, but it
Hmm.
gets wound into our way of looking at kindness that to me unravels it.
Exactly. Oh, that is really profound, and how would you say kindness works with yourself? Because it's a little, I don't know if that's actually any different because because I know there's times where I'm doing stuff so that I'll feel a certain way. There's definitely an agenda even with me. Do you find that that's kind of common, or what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's different ways to look at kindness towards ourselves. So are you doing something for yourself based on somebody else's opinion? Right? Do you feel this is what you need to be doing, you should be doing, you've been told you should do?
Hmm.
And if that's the case, is that really kindness? It's the same idea. Like, do you really know what the other person would love to have or receive? And the
Hmm.
same for yourself. Now, like for myself, with years and years of depression, I didn't know what kindness meant for myself. I
Hmm.
had no concept of what would make me feel better, what would make me feel happy, any of that stuff. So when I started to figure out, okay, well, what is kindness for Karen? It was tough. It was really, really
Hmm.
hard. And it was trial and error.
Yeah.
And it was learning to be really like honest with myself, not to look at what others people are saying, to learn to trust my awareness and my judgment and to reconnect to my body. So there's a lot of steps ahead of actually knowing what's kind for yourself.
I like that. You said something important that I want to touch on. You reconnected with your body. I'm one of those people. I'll admit this, where I do a lot of living up in here, and it's like, wait a second, I'm not even in my skin. I'm just often like not even present to this actual life. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that because a lot of people don't even realize that they do that.
So they can be in their head or they can even be outside. That's where
Yes.
I went. I went outside because being in my
Gotcha.
body was uncomfortable.
I've been there too, actually. So I know what you mean by that. And there's actually times I remember somebody very dear to me passed away, and I found out at work, and it was one of those moments where like my whole existence changed. And it was like, do I stay here and finish out the day, or do I go home? It was like, but no matter where I go, I'm still stuck with these
Yeah.
this. And it was so weird because I've never felt so uncomfortable and not been able to get away.
Right. Where can you go?
I
Right.
know. It's like there's
Yeah.
literally nothing I could do. I mean, I guess I could have maybe, drank myself into oblivion or something like that, but that's not an option for me. So anyway, no, I appreciate that. So I know that you had mentioned before about how you can't really describe your coaching because everything is, as they would say in England, bespoke. But if people, want to find out more about you, they can go to your website. Obviously, that's what I put down, everyone, in case you hadn't figured that out. But I know that you have created a new program recently. So I would love for you to share a little bit about that because I know that there's people out there that are thinking, that's how I feel. How can I maybe get where she is?
So I've created a customized monthly program. I actually started this off by talking to 10 women. I interviewed 10 women. They were around the world. It was really cool. And I just listened to them and said, just
Mhm.
tell me what you're experiencing. Take me through your days. And in exchange for them being very honest and sharing with me, I then offered them um, a session with myself to help them with whatever it is that they were dealing with.
Mhm.
And one of the common things that was coming through was, I thought I dealt with this.
Mm.
And I've tried so much. Like I've tried so many things. Like I don't know what else there possibly could be. And I'm still not feeling how I would like to be. And when I inquired, okay, well, how often are you doing this? What are you doing? And things like this, there was always wide gaps in whom they were working with.
Oh.
And it's common, it's human nature. You get to a place you think, oh, I got this, I'm good. But as a teacher of mine said years ago, as long as you've got a pulse, you have something to work on. So don't take that as discouraging, folks. I don't know. But it's just, you work through something, you feel better, you gain the understanding, or you let go, however it's going to show up for you. And what that does, though, is that allows that to dissipate and release, and for the next layer of it to come up. Like it's actually meant to come up again. And
That
when it
makes
does,
sense.
then you can go with it again. But when
Yeah.
you're working with someone, so the program is working with me 3 times a month.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
the sessions
interesting.
will be, depends. Like I'm not worried about if it's an hour or an hour and a quarter, or we go to an hour and a half. Like we will work together until we sort out what is present in that moment. And then there's support, text or WhatsApp or whatever program we want to be using together, so I can help out people in, mini crisis situations, and then
Mhm.
customized resources and tools that I will send to them for them to have to use as well. I have been known to give homework, you know, to try things. and to let me know how it works, because then that's the only way I'm going to know how to adjust it for you if it's not working for you.
I like that. I'm curious, with the number 3, that's an unusual amount. So I'm curious if there's a reason why you chose 3, if there's some sort of significance to that.
Not technically. I like a space. So I feel like, so in my mind, what it is, we work 2 weeks in a row, we take a week
Mhm.
off, and then there's another week. But it'll also depend on the client
Mhm.
as to how that's going to shape out. But sometimes we need that space to actually work through things to know how it's working. Everybody will have what I call a status matrix. And so it's a chart, and you'll list out all different areas of your life, whether your finances, your energy level, your relationships, like all of these things. And you will monitor how they're going so we can see small changes. Because
Mhm.
again, agendas, right? We want to look just for those big changes. And it's important to recognize the small ones and acknowledge those. And sometimes we need a little extra time for things to show up.
Yeah. Well, it's also practice. So it's not like, all right, you're done. Bye.
Right? Yeah.
There is that little space, like you're saying, I really like that. I think that that's a fabulous idea. And I like too that it's not linear, as in the time that it takes, or, that really speaks to who and honors whoever you're working with and their time as well, and their energy that they're putting into it.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that people are hoping when they start working with you that you'll somehow do the work for them?
So and I know that energy really well because that was me. Would somebody please just do this for me? Yeah.
Well, what's funny is because and I say this because I've been recently guilty of this. I hired a really amazing brand architect, is what he calls himself, to rebrand me. And I thought, why I thought this, but I thought that he would, give me all the things and all the pieces, and I would just, learn it. And then there we go, I'm rebranded. But he's had me do all the work basically. And he just sort of changes the phrasing a little bit. And it took me probably 4 to 5 weeks into our work together to finally realize, oh yeah, he wants me to use my words so it resonates with me.
And so when somebody hears it, they think, "Oh, that sounds like Julianne. That must be something for her."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I mean, if it's not a part of like who I'm being, then it just sounds like I'm trying to sell something, which isn't the case. I'm actually trying to be, helpful and help people that need it. So yeah, I just thought that was really funny because I noticed that a lot and thinking, oh, that's how I've been showing up. So no wonder that's who I attract.
And it's frequency, it's energy in words. I'm huge with words, and my clients sometimes go like, "Okay, fine," but I'll say, "Okay, what does that word mean to you?" And I go to
Mhm.
the etymology of words and use a Webster's dictionary from the 1800s.
Oh,
And
wow.
look at the original meaning of words, and etymology sometimes can take you back to the 14th century. And so we may look at a word from a different perspective now, but its original meaning is still there, even though we change how we view it today.
Exactly. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I worked with a coach for a while, and words were extremely important as well. I mean, it is. They're all frequency. So,
Yep.
but something that he said, and it made sense to me at the time, was that even sometimes what we consider to be positive words aren't necessarily positive because they have a negative in them, like fearless.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same energy as maybe brave, for example.
Yeah, courageous or something like that.
Courageous. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
something just all positive. Anything with like an "un" in it.
Or
Unbreakable.
like the word passion. People, not quite as much now, but 10, 15 years ago, everybody, was told you have to find your passion. You've got to live your passion. Well, passion means to die for. Like,
Yes.
there's very few reasons that I would choose that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what if it's, I think about what I would say if I were to have to die for, have to would be like family, and that's not going to be my whole life. So,
Right? Yes. So
I
yeah,
can't
so
do
I work a lot with clients on the wording and getting them to hear yourself speak and hear yourself think.
I
And
like
then
that.
that's when you can catch those repetitive thoughts that are coming through that are an indication as to what the programming is. And
Mm-hmm.
then we can figure out, okay, why was that programming given to you? And, why? And I know why isn't actually a good question because it's a spiral that never gets answered. But what is it about that thought that you've bought into as being real and true and a belief that you're unwilling to shift?
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. That is good. All right. I'm sorry to break, but we do have to go to a commercial again. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And like I said, it is time for us to go to a commercial break one last time. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about. Actually, I have a specific question in mind for our guest today, and it has to do, well, you'll have to wait and see. So we'll be back in just a minute.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest, Miss Karen Leslie, back to the show. All right. So before the commercial break, I teased that there might be a little question that I was going to ask. And this part isn't it. I'm just curious. Do you know who Pam Grout is? She's an author. She wrote E Squared. Anyway,
I've heard the title E Squared. Sorry, I'm not
Yeah.
great with names of.
No, that's okay. Anyway, I adore her, and she wrote this, and it's literally the size of my palm, this little book. She's written lots of them, but normal size. But the one that I have, it's like a bunch of laws of the universe experiments so that you can prove to yourself that they actually work. So I was always fascinated with her. And so I signed up for her email list, and she sends out obviously emails every, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And there was one that she sent that I thought was absolutely fascinating. And she was talking about affirmations and how she didn't agree with looking yourself in the eyes in the mirror and saying, I love you. And the reason why she thought that that was silly was because she said, I'm not this meat suit. She said, I would rather look at the heavens and say what I have to say. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are about things such as affirmations.
I don't use them. I'm not a huge fan. Often, again, there's an agenda attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're trying to convince yourself about something that you're just not there for yet. Now, I have encouraged people to look in the mirror and look in their eyes, but only from the perspective of trying to connect and to see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Not to see your body, not to see whether you have wrinkles or not, and buy into like, this is all okay. But just because looking into the eyes of another person, we know creates empathy.
Mm.
And looking into your own eyes can also start that process.
I like that. That's powerful. I know there's times when I've looked at into my own eyes, and it was interesting because I didn't really necessarily recognize myself. And that was a fascinating thing to experience.
So
Yeah.
I will do that. But no, I don't. I will use things. They're not like I don't use an affirmation, but I will encourage people to find a way that they can quieten their mind, whether they want a guided meditation or whether they want whatever they would like to do, and to focus in on their body, maybe to touch the body to help connect to it. And we'll use things like some statements. One is a great tool. I used to, and then you fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
Now and you fill in the blank.
I like
And you
that.
can do that in those quiet times to help with some of the reprogramming. So a quick example, I was always very, very afraid of sailing, and a lot of my family members love to sail. So last summer when I was out, I was doing really well. I'd been working on this, and then the boat, it heeled over pretty good, heard the sounds that normally make me react. And I just went, okay, like I braced myself, and then I went, I used to be terrified of sailing. Now I know I am safe and all is well. I only had to say it once, and I was right back enjoying the sailing.
I love that. It's a reminder too. I'm still here. I don't have to give into
right. So it's acknowledging, but it's shifting the neural pathways.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, our brains are fascinating machines.
They are actually. I love them. They're so fascinating.
It's interesting too, because there's so many times I have shamed myself just spoken so negatively to myself because of something that I've later learned is just how my brain works. And had I realized that, then I could have worked with that and maybe, done things differently and had a different outcome instead of just doing the same thing over and over again and being mad at myself.
I'm the same way. I'm anything but linear. Like I am just not. Never have been. So that was a problem, especially when you know my age. So how school was run and how things were, 50 years ago, it was very different. And yeah, I'm just now that I know that I have, more of a neurodivergent brain, I embrace this and go with it. And I have great days.
It was fascinating that you mentioned school, because I was talking about this the other day with somebody, and we were talking about school and how, in the United States, it's a little bit different than Canada, because I went to university in Canada and it was different. Of course, I was also a foreign exchange student. So I'm not exchange, but I was a foreign student. So so it was slightly different. But anyway, my point though is that, in most cases, you're like forced to take these classes that maybe don't even interest you, even in the slightest, and especially when you're growing up. And I can understand, you need to be a well-rounded person and all this, but at the same time, like, I don't really know why I needed to learn trigonometry, for example. But, as opposed to how to deal with feelings of sadness. I mean, which would be more useful?
From my perspective today, right? Knowing yourself and recognizing how to deal with all of these different situations and to understand why you get triggered, like
Yeah.
that's gold. It
That
really
is gold.
is. And you know, if you tend to like math or if you like geography or if you're really thinking languages are cool,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah, that was a nice thing about New York City is their high schools. I mean, they have regular ones too, but they also have individualized like high schools where, the TV show Fame where everybody was dancing and all that. That's the real school in New York City. But then they also have one for mechanics and they have another one for computer, and they, all these different things. So you can specialize. They actually listen to the person and you can, apply and try out for these specialized schools so you can get a head start on what it is that you think you want to do.
my son that's a musician went to the equivalent of that for high school here.
Love
He
that.
auditioned and he went in for the music theater program.
I
So
love that. I think that is it's way more inclusive. It's like, to me, it's like we're teaching kids not to listen to themselves. Pay attention to what the grown-up said. Look outside of yourself for the answer because you don't know.
yeah, right. I had a show a few weeks ago on play and children, and I had a guest on the show, and she was brilliant with child-led play and learning and things. And it's just like we feel, as she put it, children are an empty vessel. We have to fill it. Well, they are not. None of us are empty.
No, none
Most
of
of
us
us
are.
just don't feel comfortable sharing what we know.
I know I didn't.
Well, I
That's
was
for
still that way a few years ago. So, yeah.
Well, I'm still growing into it. I don't, I feel like that's definitely, it's one of those things. It's kind of like, spiritual evolution and finding Zen and all this. And, all the, even wellness. It's not a destination. It's a way of being, it's all these little choices we make for ourselves.
It totally is. I mean, I am very aware of how I want to start my day. And if I choose to not follow what I like to do every morning, I feel the difference.
Yeah, I'm curious. Can you share with us what it is
Sure.
that you like to do?
I start off my morning, like even before my head's off my pillow, I'll say, okay, how can today turn out better than I can possibly imagine?
I like that. That's a good
And then
question.
I call all my energy back home.
Mm.
I just say, okay, I call all my energy back home to me now from all lifetimes, timelines, dimensions, realities, universes, galaxies, and beyond. I call all my energy back home now. And as I say that, I can actually feel it all come back in. Oh, and I missed a line: past, present, future, parallel, and simultaneous, right?
Oh, I
So,
love it.
yes. So, and then I'm ready to start my day to get out of my bed. And then
That is so beautiful.
I do what's called a prep to work. And I work a lot with entities. I work with all different types and dimensions and categories of niceness and not so niceness. And so I do a clearing and a prep for myself and my loved ones every morning. I do a mind relaxation technique and a visualization and set myself up for my day and for my future days. And then I work on myself. I'll do an energy process actually on my body.
I think that's amazing. And, I would love for you to touch on how that actually affects your brain because you're building new neural pathways and enforcing them by doing something like these types of things on a regular basis, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much because a lot of people don't understand. It's a lot of it is, you know, intentionally adding things to your life instead of just by default. You know how many people look at their phone first thing in the morning? I do
Yeah.
to turn off my alarm and then that's it.
Which is great, right? Yes, because I don't look at my phone until all of this is done. I may pull oracle cards, like I work with cards a lot as well. So if I'm drawn to pull a card or if I have a question, I use my oracle cards all the time, 100% for all my shows.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Oh, that is so beautiful. Well, we only have a few minutes left. There's like 3 minutes. Is there anything that you would love to share with the audience that maybe you haven't already? Or if you want to, reiterate something that you've said before, that's definitely okay too.
If I've said anything that somebody either you can disagree or I've left a question unanswered or anything, reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation with people. Send me an email. There it is there. Thank you, Julianne. And, I have 30-minute free calls. It's not a sales call. If you just want to chat about something, I am really good with that. As I said, I don't want people believing that there's not something else. There's not another choice they can make. We're where we are now because what we've been doing is giving us what we have. You're not out of alignment. You're not broken. We are always in a line, but what are you in a line with? Because what you're in a line with has given you what you have right now. And I truly believe no one's broken. Ever, never, never, ever. I can't handle any of those sayings. You're who you are. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. And if I can help you, I would love to.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that. I'm with you. Not broken. I'm so over people saying they're broken. No.
Yeah, right? No,
Stop
no,
speaking
nobody
that
is.
into existence too. I mean, it's like that's going to be your experience, even if it's not true. Well, there's some very little that's true. So
Right? That's so true. That's true.
So anyway, yes. Oh my goodness. Everyone, I popped up Karen Leslie's website one more time as well. And for those of you who, I assume CA means Canada, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't want to say that and then be like, wait a second.
Nope, you're good.
Yeah. It's been a while. When I lived in Canada, I bought my first condo before I bought my first cell phone, and my first condo I bought in Canada. So that gives you an idea of how long ago that was.
Just a couple of years.
A couple.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to say thank you again so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute pleasure, and especially what you just shared with us is such gold. So I appreciate you being here today.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. I've loved being here with you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
And that is all the time that we have for today. We will be back on Thursday. So please enjoy your week and enjoy yourselves. Be kind, everyone. We'll see you soon.